Welcome to Rise from the Ashes. Our podcast looks at various issues for families. We'll be talking with attorneys about personal and legal concerns having to do with divorce, custody, and parenting time. There are also a few topics about letting go, moving on, and new beginnings. Please keep in mind this podcast is only to inform and help to understand legal and personal issues as they relate to family law. It should not be considered as a replacement for a qualified family law attorney. When in doubt, please contact a professional. Rise from the Ashes, focusing on matters of the family, because family matters. Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Rise from the Ashes. I'm David Braddock, and I'll be the host for the podcast. We're talking today, once again, with one of our favorite attorneys at Mundahl Law. It is Susan Mundahl. How are you doing today, Susan?
I'm great, David.
I'm glad to hear it. I understand that Mundahl Law is going to be having a new service, and we're calling it Arbitrating Personal Property Division. Is that right?
That's right, David. I've been practicing law 31 years and doing family matters, and I realized that there are very few attorneys out there who are willing to arbitrate personal property problems for folks.
What are we considering to be personal property in this case?
What I'm talking about is the stuff that accumulates during a marriage. We're talking about linens and tablecloths and the Christmas decorations and also everything up to the exercise machines and all of the other personal property between the parties that maybe one or both want.
It sounds like pretty much just about everything that the marriage has accumulated.
That's right.
Like grandma's cookie jar or something that has sentimental value? Is that what you're talking about as well?
Well, sometimes it can involve that. Of course, if both parties agree that it came from husband's grandma, then that could be considered a gift from a third party, and that would go to husband.
That sounds like something that might be considered non-marital. Is that right?
That's right. Gifts from third parties are usually considered non-marital. And I think we have another podcast on that, David. So today we're talking about the stuff that we know came during the marriage.
When we have all of these various items, the stuff, as you put it, each item must have a particular value that you would have to put to it. Is that correct?
Actually, the parties don't have to put a value on it. The easiest way to divide personal property is for the parties to go into each room of the house and say, I want this, this, and this, and the other party says, okay, I'll take this, that, and that. They just reach a mutual agreement. And it can be that the divorce decree says the parties divided their personal property to their mutual satisfaction and they agree the value is fair and equitable. That's the best way to do it.
I was going to say, that sounds like the easiest way to do it.
Yes.
So then what if you can't get that kind of agreement to happen?
Well, then the next thing is the parties can determine what the value is. And when you're looking at that, it would be ridiculous. And I did have one case that went that ridiculous, where each of them did 4 pages of the party's property, and they included the dog bowl and the dog collar and the dog on the list. And in those cases, if you're going to be honest, you're going to look at garage sale value or something that's on Craigslist or even pawn shop value, because it's a fraction of its original value in most cases. Again, parties should just simply divvy that up, but the more expensive stuff, like the exercise bike or the bedroom set, that's of little more value, over $1,000 is what we look at. The parties may have to provide some additional proof of that if they can't agree who should get it, and one party gets the actual property and the other party gets, basically they split the difference of the dollar value of it. That's another way we can do it.
Now, I know I've heard you talk before. Be careful what you're going to try to dispute, because you could end up disputing something that's worth virtually nil compared to what it's going to cost you to try to make this decision legally.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Parties have to look at, in order to get a professional appraiser to come in and value the personal property, they can be anywhere from $100 to $150 an hour. A lot of folks, let's say it's a 20-year marriage, think of all the stuff they accumulated in that marriage. I think that's cost prohibitive. The courts then, after that last step of valuing the property and then dividing out what the value is between the parties, there's another thing you can do. This is the process that I'm talking about today, which is you can have an arbitrator decide who gets what property.
What could Mundall law do for a couple that really does have a dispute over certain items of personal property?
Well, if they've tried mediation and other avenues, an arbitrator is like a mediator, but it's someone that the parties can go to, and they each would bring their lists of what it is they want awarded to them or what's in controversy that they can't decide on. They're going to pay me to do it, but they come in with their list and their reasons for why they want it awarded to them. They each then tell me their reasons, and then they both agree to be bound by my decision. It's a way that they can avoid a lot of court costs. And in fact, there's a lot of judgment and decrees where it says exactly that the parties, if they cannot agree on the division of property, that they will submit any of those issues to an arbitrator to reach that decision. Basically, my decision then would be as if they had appeared in front of a judge, but I'm just a lot less expensive.
So essentially, you are the arbitrator in these cases.
That's right.
And then once they've agreed to be bound by your decision, then I suppose that's when the legal contract becomes a part of it, according to the specifics of the items or the stuff.
That's right.
Can you explain how does this differ exactly from mediation?
Well, the difference is that in mediation, the mediator goes and they hear both sides, and they may offer an opinion on how it should be divided, but ultimately the parties make that decision themselves, and they are not bound by anything the mediator says. Whereas in arbitration, they actually signed a contract that says they agree that they will be bound by the decision made by the arbitrator, this neutral third party. That's the difference. And it is the effect of actually being a court order. The difference is a decision of an arbitrator actually has the force and effect of being an order of the court.
Is there anything else we should know about for this arbitration process with people's stuff?
Well, I think the most important thing that people need to know is that this does cost money, but it is certainly less expensive than going to trial on these personal property issues. I did a trial last summer, and wife wanted the judge to order that an appraiser would come in and appraise all of the personal property in both homes. And understand that this was a 20-plus marriage, and husband had moved out into an apartment, and wife lived in the home, and there were 3 adult children. Can you imagine? There had to be over 10,000 items that would have to be appraised. And instead, in that particular case, they had actually provided lists of value. And the judge just said, he gets to keep what he has, she gets to keep what she has. And that didn't help either one of them in a sense.
Did that help the way the judge decided?
Actually, I think it did. It was a lot easier, which is why I don't know who's even going to use an arbitrator, because once they realize that they're going to pay for the arbitrator's time to make the decision, certainly it should rule out an arbitrator having to decide on who gets the linens or who gets the silverware.
So if someone really needs this type of service for the arbitration of their things, what should they do?
They should call Mundall Law and just say that they're looking for an arbitrator on the personal property division. My staff can get them the forms that we need to have them fill out and get them set up for that arbitration.
That sounds great. Thank you very much, Susan.
You bet. Have a good day, David.
You are listening to Rise from the Ashes, the podcast channel that takes a careful look at all things having to do with legal procedure within the family law process. Rise from the Ashes is sponsored by Mundall Law, who specializes in assisting families and individuals through the legal process with respect, dignity, and caring. Mundall Law is dedicated to helping people to solve their legal problems. You can visit the Mundall Law website at mundalllaw.com or call to schedule a consultation with one of their qualified family law attorneys. Rise from the Ashes, focusing on matters of the family, because family matters.